And a lot of people I know, when we was getting out the military, they didn't even understand how to correlate the military resume into the civilian resume, and what different jobs look for and everything like that. Can you break that down?
Yeah, I've had a lot of one of the companies I worked for, one of the owners was military. He was a Marine and a great man, very intelligent. They were having, uh, they had a driven program trying to bring military in because he struggled when he came out. And he recognizes where that is. But how do you take that military experience and translate it? And so a lot of the times, I would have a lot of people apply simply because they would see that element that was there, and I'd have to help them restructure their resumes, go into those details. How many people were you managing? I don't need to know that you were managing $80 million worth of assets. Very few opportunities that you're going to qualify for are going to have you doing that. Here, you're dealing with a lot of high grade equipment. Let's break that away from that, and let's talk about the operations. So you had 7, 8 people underneath you. They had 5 to 10 underneath them, and you kind of begin breaking that down and getting the organizations to look similar. And from there, now we start talking about your leadership skills, your leadership style. Let's start talking about how you impacted and inspired others. And that's where that military experience, which is so teamwork driven and so, if you were in combat, it's a very different element that you were in the field with. So how do you take that and bring it back and translate it? You've got to look at that inspirational time, that training, that development that you did for each of those individuals, and how you brought them up to their highest level of success. And that's what we got to bring out in those resumes.
I love that, what I'm saying? And I tell people all the time, especially the guys that was on the ground with me, combat soldiers, and how to correlate that combat MOS into something when they get out, and sometimes it ain't going to correlate, and sometimes it is. Leadership goes everywhere, but they're not looking for that type of job in project management. So once I went through my trials and tribulations of bankruptcy with my own company, I got my PNP. But going to go work for these certain companies is people that's been there 10, 20, 30 years that looking at you like, where you been at? And why you get to come here and get this high paying job because you're military, you PNP, and they gave me a hard time, and it messed with my PTSD. It was very toxic. So I had to say, you know what? I'm gonna keep my PNP, but I can't work at for nobody because I'm not coming in being respected because certain situations. And I get it. What's theirs is theirs. What's mine is mine. But I thought that we was told that we would get an opportunity when we get out to go compete for these certain positions, and it was very hard for me in the workforce. Very hard.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. It is a challenge translating those skills into civilian life. I've seen a lot of people struggle with that and wind up in security or police work, which translates very directly. But if you're not able to do that or don't have a desire to do it, that that will eat you up in a hurry. There's you're dealing with a lot of people's worst days in that industry. And but to move that into leadership is almost as hard for a pro athlete to take their skill set from like a football player. Like you
Right.
played in the NFL, you might be wearing a couple of championship rings, but it's very hard to translate that into the corporate environment without the right degree and the right education.